Today we're going to cover how to mix kick drum and bass guitar, how to EQ them to fit together well, how to use dynamic sidechain EQ to make it even better, to make sure that your low end, the foundation of your mix, is solid and powerful. I'm Keith from No Label, No Producer, NoLimits.com. Let's go. Here's the song we'll be working with today. It's called The Sun. It's a demo. The kick drum track is here in gold and the bass guitar track is here in blue. Let's take a quick listen and then talk about how we can get them to fit together better.
When she smiles, it feels like the sun. The sun. And
Okay, that's a taste of it. So what I'm going to do, and I don't usually do this when I'm mixing, but I'm going to call up a frequency analyzer just to show you what's going on. So here's a frequency analyzer. Kick is gold, bass is blue, and then I have the guitars in here as well. And let's just take a look at what's going on.
when she smiles, it feels like the sun.
But you can see that the bass guitar,
The sun.
you can see that the bass guitar is prominent here in these low mids. The kick drum is prominent here, and then the guitars are prominent higher up. And that's the way that it should be. Instruments fit together on the frequency spectrum. The question is, can we make that bass and drum fit together better? Let's mute the vocals and the keyboards and the guitars and see how the bass and the kick are doing on this frequency analyzer. Now here you can see, once again, the bass is prominent in the low mid-range, and the kick drum looks like it has a peak here around 45 hertz. The bass right now is about 65 hertz, but when it goes to the low E, let's see. Or maybe that's a G, I don't remember. So right here on these lower notes, we do have some definite overlap. And it's not the job of a mixer to get rid of every time an instrument overlaps another instrument. It's the job of a mixer to decide how much of what is prominent when. And what we want with the kick and the bass drum is to have them blend together in a way that's pleasing, that you can hear them both, and that the low end is solid, full, and usually consistent. And so here we have a case where we have a lot of competing frequencies going on. And the question is, what can we do about that, and do we want to do anything about it? The first place I would start is with EQ. So I'm going to click on the effects button and call up re-EQ. And what I want to do is find the solid low end, and in order to do that I'm going to put this in high pass mode and turn the bandwidth up, which is going to give us a little boost there. And let's hunt around for the low end of the kick drum. It's really solid there, I like it. So I'm going to turn this bandwidth down, and just so that we give it just a little bit of a hump there, and I'm going to take band 2 and narrow it down a little bit and have just a little bit of a cut above it. And this, if you'll notice, is at about 200 hertz, and so that's going to be right where the bass is prominent. Gonna get a little attack here. Let's hear how this fits together with the EQ on and off. Fits together a little better already. Let's do something similar on the bass guitar. I'm going to call up re-EQ again And so this will be the bass guitar on the left and the kick drum on the right. Let's see if we can find the bottom end of the bass guitar. This time I'm going to do it with just a band. I'll narrow it down a little bit and listen to see if I can find just the solid low end. Coming in closer to 100 hertz there. All right, let's see. I'm going to turn this into a high pass again and just make it be a fairly gentle slope. But so we'll cut out some of these frequencies that are right where the bass drum is prominent. So here's the problem. Some of the fullness in the bass is right here around 57 hertz. Some of the fullness in the kick drum is right here in a similar area, 70 hertz. Okay, 60 hertz, very similar. So these are going to step on each other's toes a little bit, but you know, I think they sound okay. Let's hear with the rest of the instruments in.
When she smiles, it feels like the sun, and I'm alright, the future's bright.
Now one of the things that we could do is emphasize this at maybe at an octave of that, or something near an octave of that. So let's take this down to like 100 and, what was that one, 57? So just over 100 hertz. Let's see what that sounds like. I'll narrow the band just to get a sense of what's going on.
When she smiles, it feels like the sun, and I'm alright, the future's bright with this one.
So we do have some interference here. I think they sound okay, and I think it's better pushing this 100 hertz or so in the bass guitar, because that's an area where the kick doesn't really need to be quite as much. So I think we've improved things with EQ, but we're not done yet. If you want to make great sounding recordings with minimal gear, I have a home recording mentorship program which will help get you there faster. If you're interested, type home recording in the comments and I'll send you a link. Now, one of the things I'm guilty of is this. So if you look at the EQ here on the kick, I've boosted the lows and a little bit in the high mids, and I've only taken a little bit out of the low mids. So essentially, I've turned the kick up. And maybe I think it sounds better because I've turned it up. So let's volume match a little bit. That's not too bad. Let's just come down just a dB or so. Same thing on the bass. Okay, now we've gain staged. Now let's do a little compression on the bass, but not your usual compression. Let's do some multi-band compression. I'm going to add Re-X comp, R-E-A-X. So this is Re-X comp. It's a multi-band EQ, which means it can compress different bands of frequencies differently. So you can see here these red controls here are the different bands. Right now we have it set up for 4 bands. And let me turn them on so they're easier to see. So you can see right here, in order to set the threshold, we click on a band and drag it up or down. As you can see, the threshold moves right here. The ratio is set with this slider. It works just like a regular compressor, only it only compresses this band of frequencies with these controls. We can solo a band. We can make up the gain on an individual band. We can make up the gain overall here. I usually like to turn this auto makeup gain off. As you will see, it will trip me up later. We select the frequencies here. We set the threshold here. We set the ratio here. We set the attack and release here. We can add bands and delete bands here. But each of these bands works the same. It's just using a different frequency range. What I like to do is I solo the band, listen to see what range of frequencies I want to affect, maybe set the ratio, bring the threshold in until I'm achieving the desired amount of gain reduction. So what this does is it can take an uneven frequency response of an instrument or a mix and smooth it out a little bit. In this case, I'm just going to use it to compress the very low frequencies in the bass guitar. It's going to interfere with the kick drum a little bit more after I do this, but we'll fix that later. So let's just keep band 1 active, and that's this band right here. And if I grab it and drag it over here, I can change the frequencies that it affects. So I'm going to solo it and look for just the absolute most solid low end when I solo the bass guitar up. Starting to get woofy there. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to go for about a 4, well, let's go for a 3-to-1 ratio. And we'll pull the threshold down here until we get this very, very solid low end more consistent. Oh, you know, I have this auto makeup gain on, which I don't want to have. Let's work on the attack and the release times here. I'm hearing a little bit of crackling there, so I should probably just close down my browser and all my extra tabs. Let's unsolo and see if we've made any kind of improvement just by compressing this ultra low stuff. Yep, a little more solid down there. So let's hear it in the context of the mix.
When she smiles, it feels like the sun. The sun. And
Okay, I think we've added to the solidity of the mix, but perhaps there's too much low end covering up the low end of the kick drum. So let's take care of that. Let's do some sidechain compressing. I'm going to click on the effects button and add the green dynamic EQ from Toucan. So this is the green dynamic EQ. Let me quickly go over the controls. It's like an EQ and a compressor combined. It has the EQ section here on the front, and there are 5 bands. They work just like any other parametric EQ. There's a boost or a cut here. We can choose the frequency here, and we can choose the width of the boost or the cut here. So that's, I'm sure you've seen those controls before. It's got 3 bands in the middle, and we have a low shelf and a high shelf. To get into the dynamics section of this effects processor, we click on the D. The signal coming in here will show here, and this is the threshold. Instead of using a knob, we drag this up or down to control which signals are above the threshold. This is the range control, which controls the maximum amount of boost or cut that we have, and this sensitivity works pretty much like a ratio control on a compressor. Then we have the typical attack and release controls, and this button INT controls, I assume it stands for internal, it controls what signal we feed to the threshold. So in this case, we're going to drag that kick over to sidechain input number 1, and the kick drum is going to show up here on this threshold. Now I'm going to drag from the route button of the kick over to the face of the green dynamic EQ. And there we have it. It says I'm in channels 3 and 4. So I want to go to the dynamics section here. I'm going to create a low shelf. Let's push it up so I can see it. And we'll maybe take it for everything under maybe 100 hertz. And go to the dynamics section and make sure, I think that's SC1 is channels 3 and 4. Let's see. We should see the kick drum appearing on this meter.
When she smiles, it feels like the sun.
So we're going to cut maybe maximum 6 dB. This control is basically like the ratio control on a compressor. So it's going to control how hard the bass compresses when the kick drum hits.
When she smiles,
Hold the threshold down.
it feels like the sun. The sun, and I'm alright. The future's bright with this one. Bright.
Yeah, listen to the low end of that kick come through.
When she
Listen to the low end of the kick. A little bit more solid there. So what we've done, we've EQ'd the kick drum and the bass guitar, and we have sidechained the bass from triggering it from the kick drum so that we pull the low end out of the bass only when the kick drum hits. And I think they fit together better now. Now, of course, you're going to need some decent speakers in order to hear some of these changes, but here's what we have so far.
When she smiles, it feels like the sun. The sun, and I'm alright.
I think the changes we've made add to the power and the consistency of the low end, making it a more solid mix.
I just smile and say, I'll be there in no time. So I just smile and say, I'll be there in no time. I plan my getaway, gonna leave all this behind. No, I'm not gonna stay, gonna hit the road and feel the wind upon my face, my mind. Instead of living this slow life, I just smile and say, I'll be there in no time.
Type home recording in the comments to get more information on the home recording mentorship program. I think I'll go just a little bit harder with the low end on the kick drum. Let us take this EQ here and increase the slope so we get a couple more dB out of that low end. I'm happy with that. Since you're interested in mixing, it makes sense to watch the next video in this series about achieving separation and clarity in mixing. You should see it by now. For now, I'm Keith for No Label, No Producer, No Limits.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment, or face the consequences.